To give a general idea of an evacuation scheme, we'll establish the Casualty Air Evacuation Section somewhere behind the battlefront. The flags symbolize the various Army medical units from which casualties are received. The main base airfield to which they're evacuated may be located across the water, perhaps in another country. The Casualty Air Evacuation Section is located close to an airfield or a temporary landing strip. From the various field hospitals or general hospitals, the casualties travel by ambulance and are held at these wards for any treatment necessary before evacuation. When the transport plane arrives, the freight it carries is dumped and the aircraft is then made ready to receive casualties. They're collected from the wards by ambulance and loaded on the aircraft, which brings them over to the main base airfield. Here, they're assembled in wards to receive any intermediate treatment which may be necessary. Exceptional cases requiring urgent attention may be detained at the sick quarters. The rest are then graded into batches according to the type and severity of injuries sustained and are dispersed by ambulance either direct to local hospitals or to a railhead for dispatch by ambulance train. Now let's go back to the Casualty Air Evacuation Section and follow operations step by step. Here is an ambulance just arrived from the Army lines of communication. Unloading begins immediately. The furnishing of these tents is usually of a temporary nature. Improvisation is important. Petrol tins or ammunition boxes can often be used as supports for the stretchers. Raised from the floor in this way, the patients have a greater feeling of comfort, and they're obviously at a more convenient height for handling and treatment. As the ward fills up, the medical officer, in company with the sister, begins his round. Each patient is carefully examined to see if any intermediate treatment is necessary before evacuation. The envelope issued by the medical unit shows the man's rank, name and number, and a diagnosis of his injuries at a glance. Inside the envelope, this form number 3118 gives similar information and the identity of the medical unit to which he was admitted as a casualty. Spaces on the inside are for notes on general condition and treatment. The penicillin label, being bright yellow, is easily recognized. Spaces filled in show the dose of drug and the date and time it was given. Where the standard time or dose has been varied by the medical officer who began the treatment, he gives special instructions on this card. This one gives similar information about the sulfur drug. Its distinctive marks may vary, but this one is typical. The Casualty Air Evacuation label AFW 3083 is issued in triplicate. On this is entered the identification number of the aircraft in which he's to travel, and also the name of the airfield of emplacement. In this case, the patient has a serious wound in the thigh, but so far no complications have developed. Sometimes X-ray negatives accompany a patient. Air orderlies must take great care of them and stow them with the patient to avoid loss or misplacement. The examination completed, our patient is declared fit for evacuation and his name is entered on the list by the sister. Here is a severe facio-maxillary case. His condition calls for special surgical treatment, and he will therefore be one of the first to be evacuated. Eventually the tent is fully occupied, and the work of tabulating, washing, feeding, or redressing goes on until the time comes for emplaning.